Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. I'm so excited to have you here with us today. I'm C.R. Tleen, the host today. And if you can see, I don't have Dave with me. Dave is out in Las Vegas meeting with clients. So I was so fortunate to have one of our advisors we work with jump on with us. So Victoria Larson is here with us today, and she's filling in for Dave for our half hour. And we are so excited to have her here with us. And Victoria, as we get started, tell us about who you are and why you're here today.
Thank you, CR. It truly is a pleasure to be here today. A little bit about me. I'm a financial advisor in Sarasota, although a Chicagoan and a Midwesterner by heart. I've been in the financial services industry since 2001, working with individuals, helping them plan for their retirement and then helping navigate through their retirement. But on a more personal level, I'm a mother of two millennials. I have a daughter who's 31. They age and then I age. And then a son who's 28 and proud grandma of three boys. Spent my weekend with one grandson in Chicago and then came home and babysat two others overnight. So, financial advisor, grandma, mother.
You do it all.
That's how I spend my time. Yes.
Well, that's awesome. So you're down in Florida where I'm sure it's nice and warm and comfortable. And I'm in Georgia, so not too far away.
Yes, Sarah, it was nice to get back. I was in Chicago and it hailed for a couple of days. I'm like, what is this? I forgot about hail, but came back and it's absolutely beautiful here in Sarasota. We're actually at the time where folks, all your friends come and say, hey, are you free? I'd like to come visit you to escape the weather. So,
Yeah,
mhm.
exactly. Well, I know Dave loves spending time in Chicago as well. And he's there. He's in Boston. Like I said, this week he is in Las Vegas. And so we're very fortunate to have you here with us. And I just want to remind everyone that's joining us live today is we are here. We're talking retirement. We have Victoria Larson with us today, and we get to throw a bunch of questions at her today. Normally we have Dave here, and we're able to ask her all of these great questions. And for those on replay, again, thank you for being here. Now, I do want to encourage you, if you do have a question, go ahead and submit that. Let us know also where you're watching from. Let us know, any question you have in retirement. I think it's really fun to do that. And Victoria, before we dive in, I have a few of my questions I want to ask you too, if
All
that's
right.
okay.
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit with our show because I've been able to pull some questions in from people who have sent questions in. And also I threw in some of my own questions. So let me get my first question on the screen here. So this is from me, but I want to know what inspires you to do the line of work you do?
That's an interesting question. Actually, my daughter this morning, she's a nurse and was driving home, and I kind of make sure she gets home safe. And she goes, "Mom, how long do you want to work for, and why do you work so hard and so long?" And I ended up sharing with her. I'm like, ultimately, Ash, it doesn't feel like work because I'm really focused on the end results and helping my clients meet their goals, their aspirations, and that really motivates me. See, I can share a couple that really bring that home. I have a client I'm working with who retired from the government in her early 50s and decided that single woman, by the way, and that she wanted to have a baby. And so I went through this whole process with her of, finding an embryo and how do we fund all these additional expenses? How is she going to be okay both for her retirement, which starts now, so it could be a 40, 50-year retirement, and also provide the way she wants to provide for a child. So to work for that with her on that unique experience really brings a lot of value to me, and satisfaction. And I have another client right now who came to me and said, "You know what? I'm done working here. I think I have enough assets. Do I have enough assets? I want to go live in Mexico and live in Puerto Vallarta." So her plan is completely different. So it's the uniqueness and it's the satisfaction of making clients feel confident that they're going to be okay with their money, safe, and feel that they have someone to collaborate with throughout that whole process.
And I love to hear that, especially at the beginning where you talk about that it doesn't feel like work. I think that's one of the
Mm-mm.
things that I really appreciated when Dave started this, is because he said, I'm here to help people. There was
Mm-hmm.
no other intention. It was, I'm here to help people. And I can definitely see that because I've been on several webinars with you. And you also have your guest, Heather, that also is with you, which does a
Mm-hmm.
great job.
Mm-hmm. Yes. She was sorry she couldn't make it today. But hopefully next time when you invite us.
Yeah, and it's been great, and that's the one thing I really appreciate is that you're doing it for the people, and like you said, it doesn't feel like work, because that really is powerful, because a lot of times we have these preconceived notions of what a financial advisor is, and they're only there for a commission check, but you're telling me that a lot
Mm-mm.
more to that, and you're trying to really help people get to that next level.
Yeah, it is definitely the value satisfaction in seeing them happy and confident for sure.
All right, well, let's jump to another question I have
All
here from
right.
Lynn. So this is a two-parter, so bear with me as I get through this here. Lynn's asking, do you see a particular dollar amount of retirement savings where you recommend a single person not consider IRA conversions or contributions? And let me read the second part. I see some people with lower assets thinking Roth is the only way to go, and they will be losing out on the standard deductions completely.
Okay. All right. Let me try to dive into that two-part question here. Basically, let's step back and say there are basically three different types of investment accounts, if you will. And those are taxable, tax deferred, and tax free. All right. And there is an ideal balance in all three of those. Starting with the easiest bucket for most people to understand, it's that taxable bucket. That's the non-qualified money. Might be your money in your savings account, checking account, maybe in a brokerage account, but that money is generally liquid, and it's there. It makes an ideal emergency fund. So there's an ideal balance of 6 months of living expenses in that bucket. The tax deferred, even though you haven't paid taxes on those dollars, there's still an ideal balance in that. And depending, I forgot our lady's name here. Lynn, was it?
It's Lynn, yes.
Lynn. Depending what Lynn's balance in that bucket would determine whether or not I would recommend that she does a Roth conversion. So let me try to explain that a little more. The IRS gives you a couple of gifts, and only a few, and one of them is a standard deduction. That deduction is $12,550 for a single person, and it goes up each year. Well, that deduction means for the first $12,550 of income, Lynn's paying no taxes. So if Lynn is, let's say, 72, and when you're forced to take money out of that tax deferred bucket, if the amount she's forced to take out is less than or equal to the standard deduction, I would not recommend her to do any Roth conversion. So to clarify that, let's just say this at 72, the IRS says that you have to take out 3.91% out of your tax deferred bucket. That's a required minimum distribution. Otherwise, you're going to pay a penalty. Well, if Lynn has $300,000 in her tax deferred bucket at 72, she can take out, allow a little rounding here, 4%, 12,000 and not pay any taxes. So in her case, I may recommend not doing a Roth conversion. Now, I say may because I don't know with this question if Lynn has a real high Social Security or a pension. So those may play into my decision making.
Okay. Now you've talked about these buckets. Can you break these three buckets down for me a little bit and tell me what goes in these buckets and where this concept came from?
Yeah. So I work closely. Actually, I was trained by David McKnight, best-selling author of The Power of Zero, Look Before You LURP, his newest book, Tax-Free Income for Life. I went through his training program, was vetted by him to be an elite Power of Zero advisor. So I really focus in on proper tax planning. And David speaks about how there are 3 different buckets. That taxable bucket, I kind of shared a little bit about that. That would be items like a checking account, savings account, could be a brokerage account. Those are taxable investments because at the end of the year, you get a 1099 from the financial institution they recorded to the IRS and say, hey, I know you only made $50 on your savings account, but we want our fair share. So that's the taxable bucket. I shared with you there's an ideal balance. You really want about 6 months of living expenses in that account. Many times people will come to me and they have a couple $100,000 or more in that account because they're afraid of the market. The problem is if that's in a CD or in a savings account, they might be getting 1% on that and they're not keeping up with inflation. So their thought is they're being safe with their money, and in effect, they're losing money because it's not keeping up with inflation, like I said, which is now, I think I saw CR around 6%. So we'll go to the second bucket, tax deferred. These are your qualified accounts. These are accounts where you've put money into your retirement account and you've gotten a deduction when you put that money in. Your money grows tax deferred. And then when you take money out, you then pay the taxes. So this could be a 401k or 403b, TSP account, IRA. Those are all examples of tax deferred. We get a deduction, we defer the tax to sometime down in the future, and then we pay the taxes at whatever that tax rate is, and we don't know today what that is. The third bucket is the tax-free, and that bucket includes investments like your Roth IRA accounts, Roth 401k, Roth conversions, pretty much anything that says Roth is tax-free. But also some cash value life insurance policies behave like a Roth, like a Roth account, and those too are tax-free. And there's an ideal balance in all 3. 6 months in the taxable. Tax deferred is you want it equal to, when you take money out, it's equal to or less than your standard deductions that I just shared with you, CR. And then everything else you wanted in the tax-free. That's a lot to cover it over without like a whiteboard and drawing.
Yeah.
For me to cover that.
No, I appreciate that. I think it really helps those that are with us live and on replay what those buckets are and how to break that down. You also talk about Roth, and I hear a lot of times that Roth, anything with the word Roth in it is a good thing. Help me understand that a little bit, because that I want people to understand, because when you answer this question, you're also saying, hey, I just really want people to be aware of what decisions they're really making.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And I'm in the process right now with clients doing Roth conversions. So to get into that tax-free bucket means you have to pay a tax. And human nature is we don't like to pay a tax before we have to pay one. And so it's real good to say, hey, or intuitively like, oh, I'm going to just pay that later, push it down the road. So with the Roth, though, is you're paying the tax before you put money into those retirement accounts. So it stings because you're paying a tax now. But very importantly, you know what the tax rate is. So you put that money in knowing full well how much you're going to pay in taxes today. Once that money is in that Roth account, that money grows. It grows tax-free. And then when you take money out, it is tax-free as well. And this might be a little bit much here, but when you take money out of those accounts and you're retired, those distributions do not cause your Social Security to be taxed. And that is very important. And, when Social Security felt like a tax when you were paying it. And then when you take it out to be taxed again, for many, that's a big surprise. They don't learn until they're retired.
So it sounds like to me we all have certain circumstances, right? So you're saying for one
Mhm.
person versus another, it's going to be a different result because your retirement is going to look a lot different than my retirement. And
Mhm.
that's why it's important that when we're doing this, that we all look for somebody like you that can help us through this because I can't match, Joe down the street because he already has a boat and has his house paid off. I have to be able to worry about my retirement. And I would love to hear why that's so important to you that we get on that right path now versus saying, I'm going to wait 10 years and then find somebody to talk to.
Wow, that's a great question. And I've been fortunate of late where individuals in their early 50s are reaching out for the advice now, and it makes it so much easier to plan because we're able to even incorporate strategies while they're working, so we're not having to make it up later. And there's so many different ways to answer that, CR. I mean, first of all, if you're in your early 50s, we can make changes and go, and I can educate them what I just said. We know what the tax is today. So if their company has a Roth 401k, we can make that shift today there. If their company, if they have lots of money and they're qualified 401k, so tax deferred 401k account, and their company allows for in-service distributions, we can start looking at doing conversions today before that account grows so big that it becomes a bigger burden on them later. Likewise, if we can do it today when they're in their 50s and we're getting most of these conversions done, then it's not impacting their Medicare Part B and D premiums, which is a shock for folks too. I mean, there's big swings in premium costs. And when you do Roth conversions, that is like ordinary income. So it determines what threshold you're in and and then that drives what your premiums will be for Medicare Part B and D. So the earlier we get to start working with you, the better. I just saw this article too that talked about, I think it was Kiplinger and Vanguard, that did some studies that showed that individuals that work with financial advisors were generating anywhere from a 3% overall better return in their portfolio. I think Kiplinger said about 2%. So it really is beneficial to work with an advisor earlier than later and just start, staying the course of keeping the clients, on the right path.
And I love that because a lot of times we're always kicking that can down, but you're just saying, do something today. And that's what Dave preaches every day. Even if you start small, just do something today because that will change the course for you and your family.
It's a big deal. And, I have some clients, and I say this because they're even my own clients. I said, did we get the wills and the trusts updated? And it's, oh, I'm going to get to it, Victoria, I'm going to get to it. And then a couple of years later, finally they get to it. Well, when you're looking at your finances, waiting 2 and 3 years can have a significant financial impact on where, how big your nest egg is going to be down the road. So it is advisable to connect with someone who's good at tax efficient retirement planning.
Well, I snuck a few more questions in here that I wanted to ask you. So I'm going to bring up my next one. What differentiates you from other advisors?
That's a great question. Well, I think it has to go a little bit with my background. So I've been in financial services since 2001. And prior to that, I spent 11 years in executive education and training and development. So I bring to my clients a real focus on educating them. They might be experts as accountants, or they might be experts, as a dentist, or, just in their realm of capabilities in their careers. And the financial services, they're like, listen, I'm not really good with numbers. This is a little confusing. Well, I want my clients to understand and be educated so that when we're talking together about their plan, it becomes more collaborative. So collaboration, I think, is another factor. I collaborate with my clients. I think as a woman advisor, we bring in a sense of like empathy and understanding. I can look at a client's face and go, okay, we're not getting it. And they feel safe enough to come to me and go, you're right, Victoria, can you repeat it? And then we work it together. So I think communication, empathy as a female, but education is important. And then I get to the point where, like I said earlier, I love working with these clients. It doesn't feel like work. I want them to call me when they're making a big purchase. And they do. They call and say, should I do this? And sometimes I'm like, well, it's the end of the year. Let's make that big purchase in January. We'll take it out of another bucket of money. Or I'm telling them what bucket makes the most sense. So
I love that. Well, let me jump down to my next question here. I've got one from Linda, and she is wondering, do you suggest at retirement to have enough in bucket one to equal 6 months of living expenses plus the amount of debt?
all right. So the ideal balance, what Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, even David Remite says we should have in that first bucket is 6 months of living expenses. That should get you through a down, event in life, an emergency, if you will. And that could be, a loss of job or, in Florida, we have hurricanes. So it could be damages to your home, 6 months. So I would take out the amount of debt and separate that out of that number. Now, that being said, I work with a lot of female clients, and I ask them, what do you feel comfortable with? Many of them will tell me 1 year of living expenses, and that amount I'm good with. If that makes them feel safe and protected, that works well for me. If they have more than that, then I need to do my job and really drive home what we potentially are losing by not keeping up with inflation or not getting the gains we can get in using other investment vehicles.
And with that, I do want to bring up my next question, because this one is, you kind of just touched on it with this one here, but you work with a lot of women clients, and tell me why that is different for you, because you've talked about this a couple of times. And so I want to bring this up so you can give us a little bit more insight on this.
Yeah, it became a focus. This is going to get a little personal, CR. So I've been in financial services since 2001. And I started my practice working with Allstate Insurance Company. And back in 2016, I went out completely independent and moved to Florida. So I was in Chicago, moved to Florida. And it had to do with a conversation I had with my mother, who has a beautiful pension. She was in tears one day going, I don't think I have enough money. And I sat and explained, you have plenty of money, and mapped it all out. But it hit home that there's a lot of female out there that just don't necessarily feel comfortable with financial advisors. Sometimes they've been burned. In fact, I'm working with a client right now who I just trusted the guy. He seemed like a nice guy. I handed it over, and she had a $30,000 tax bill last year that was not explained to her before. They made some changes. And then she felt stupid. So then she didn't really go with him. So, when I talk about working with women, I realize there's not a lot of female financial advisors out there, and that women can really want to work with someone that they feel comfortable, that they feel comfortable that there's no dumb question, that they can ask anything, that they can repeat those, and that feels like they're working with them side by side. So that's really why I did it, and it's been extremely rewarding. They'll call me, they'll send me Christmas cards, send me cookies. When there was a hurricane, they're calling, "Are you okay?" So we really build that relationship with a client.
I love that too, because as Dave and I have worked with a lot of different people over this course of this retirement life, is that he always answers the same question over and over and over. And people are saying, well, is this a dumb question? I love you bring that up, because first of all, there is no dumb question, especially when it comes to my retirement or your retirement, because we want to be able to make sure we understand. And that's the whole reason this is here, so we can educate people. And I think the second part is it allows people to reach out to you and connect, because like you said, they may not feel comfortable, but if they see you and they say, hey, here's a woman I can talk to, I can be involved with, that can help me to make these better decisions and get where I'm coming from, that's a game changer. And I'm so glad that you're part of the team that we get to work with.
Yeah, and I'm going to add, I mean, we have to be knowledgeable. I mean, I'm a certified retirement income planner and I've been doing this for years. So numbers part comes naturally, but the human part, I can have the right plan. I can have all the numbers and explain it at one level. But if I can't get our clients to really feel safe, then they're not going to sleep well at night, even if it's the very solid, strong plan. So good advisors need both sides of the brain.
Yeah, exactly. I want to bring in Chantel brings up a point here, and she said, I normally tell my clients 1 year of income in bucket one.
Yeah, I mean, it can be. We generally go with living expenses, but I've had some clients that feel comfortable with 1 year of income. I'm not going to, dispute that at all. It goes back to what I said earlier. At the end of the day, the client has to feel safe with what they have in that emergency fund. You just don't want to have too much in there where they're hurting themselves. But 1 year is fine.
I really like that. I also have, and Chantel, thanks for being here. We love seeing you, and you pop in here and there. We also have Armando, and we love him. He's been on several times, and he's saying, hello, please put a link to a website to learn more about Victoria Larson and her specialty. So I'm going to go ahead and put your link in there. We'll get that in there.
All right,
But
great.
tell them about the company where you're at and what you're doing right there.
Here in Sarasota?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do a lot of, like I said, tax efficient retirement planning, but I teach a class through the Society of Financial Awareness. It's the class that we're going to be doing a webinar on for Dave Hall's organization coming up here. But we do a live class here in Sarasota, and in let's see, we're going to do one in Tampa this year, Sarasota, and also in Bradenton. So, and then if I'm not teaching, I'm working with clients or babysitting my grandkids. So, and at this time of the year when we're working with clients, while I'm not an accountant, we do a lot of Roth conversions. So right now we're meeting with clients, kind of estimating where their taxes are likely going to be and what's the right amount to convert. So that and what's the tax implication of that, so that no one is blindsided. Like I shared with you, this client, Kim, that I'm working with right now, I don't want any client to be blindsided with an unexpected tax bill.
Exactly. And I'm so grateful that you're here. And I did put in the chat there, I did put in Victoria's website so you can learn a little bit more about her. And Victoria, you also did mention about what we have coming up here. And let me see if I can get this to pop up on the screen here. Hopefully I can get it to work. All right, there we go. So with this one, we have Victoria, and it looks like your co-host Heather's going to be with you.
Heather will be joining us. Yep.
And so we have 2 different dates coming up. So you can find this at retirementriskadvisors.com/advisors. You can go on and see the advisors that we are working with, and you can see Victoria on there. And her next date is going to be Tuesday, November 30th. And then she also has one, if you can't make that one, on December 7th. Mm-hmm. So make sure you get signed up for that. And tell me about this. You've been part of this 4-hour course. Tell me what it's like for you. We sit down for 4 hours and go through this webinar, and we really dive into retirement.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with the class is when people come up and go, oh my goodness, I've been doing it all wrong. I had no idea. Where were you 20, 30 years ago for me? And they realize that there's so many different risk factors that you have to take into consideration for comprehensive retirement planning. Because during their working years, right, they've been focused on that brokerage account. I just need to save as much money as possible in my 401k. But when they retire, they realize, okay, all these piece parts, how do I maximize my Social Security? How do I, I've got this bucket of money, but what do I do with it? How do I organize it so that I don't outlive my money? And equally as important is that they don't underlive their lifestyle. I had a client in my office who had plenty of money, strong pension, and she came in and said, hey, I've cut all my expenses. I'm not eating out. I'm not getting massages. I'm not doing my hair. I'm going to the school to get my hair done. Well, we did her plan, and she would die with $11 million. I'm like, you're way under living your lifestyle. I'm like, you don't need to be dying with $11 million. Not to mention she didn't have any children. So I'm like, unless your nieces and nephews want to be wealthy. So, there's just so many different factors, inflation risk, longevity risk, long-term care risk. So the class really brings a lot of that to the forefront and opens people's eyes that says, okay, to do a plan, I need some help, and I need to take into consideration many different risks, not just, what kind of return am I getting from my brokerage account.
And with that, I did put a link in there so you can go to retirementriskadvisors.com. And I even put the one for Vitality that takes them directly to your page that will talk about you a little bit. And then again, you can click on the link there and sign up for that one November 30th or December 7th. And I just wanted to post our last one here from Armando. He said, thank you for the link and for your shows. It's always refreshing.
Well, thank you, Armando.
Yeah, he's joining us from YouTube. So we've got YouTube and Facebook here. So again, I just want to thank everyone who's been with us today. We're over time. We've been here on Facebook and YouTube Live. We thank you for being here with us and for your time. It's really important that we get to understand more about retirement. And even Chantil's jumping in saying thank you. It's so great to have you guys here with us live and on replay. It's really important that we're just learning. And I love that you, Victoria, said, just do something. That's the key thing from me today.
Yeah, just do something. Start.
And as we get going, Victoria, any last comments you want to add before we end for today?
No, I think you really hit home on that. Just do something. I mean, we can easily get paralyzed or say someday down the road, I'll take care of that. The earlier, the better. In fact, I've been even working with existing clients and saying, let's talk to your children that just got married. So the earlier, the better.
I love that. Well, I wish I had some hand clapping or something to celebrate. You did an amazing job. So thank you for being here with us. It's been so fun. We miss Dave. I mean, Dave's always here doing this and he's always crushing it, but it's always refreshing to have somebody new sit in the spot. And last week I wasn't here, so it was great to have this change up. But Victoria, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you,
everyone.
CR.
You're welcome. And everyone else, we'll see you guys again next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central Time. And remember to come with your questions on retirement. I mean, again, we talk Social Security, Medicare, long-term care, reverse mortgage. And as Victoria said, we dive into all the risk in retirement. So we'll see you guys again next week. And thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.